Good afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Frank Gaetano here from the Hail Palace for our daily hail forecast. As always, brought to you by C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor Show, and Atlas Roofing. The link to their Facebook page is in the description to this video. Thank you guys for sponsoring this and making this possible. Appreciate it. Getting right into our weather headlines, we do have a long cold frontal risk that goes pretty much across the center of the country. It's very elongated, kind of a narrow risk in the center portion of the country. We're going to go over where isolated storms are going to be possible for that. And then tomorrow we have a risk on the East Coast plus a couple of other areas with marginal risks to look out for. And then we also finally have Tropical Storm Bonnie to look at. We're not really at risk here in the U.S., but I'm going to show you where Bonnie is tracked to go and what her intensity is going to be moving forward. As always, we're going to get into our upcoming events. We've only got one to talk about today, the Florida Roofing and Sheet Metal Expo. That's going to be in Daytona Beach, Florida, July 19th through the 22nd of this year. And if you want more information on that, you can go to floridaroof.com. So the Florida Roofing and Sheet Metal Expo, July 19th through the 22nd. Getting right into yesterday's storm reports. It was a pretty quiet day. We only had a total of 29 severe weather reports yesterday. Most of this stuff here in the center of the country was sub-severe. Same thing down here in the southwest. We did have some large hail and high wind reports come in the upper Michigan area near Marquette. And then we also had a couple of these were severe, but most of these were sub-severe. We did have a couple of severe wind reports in the Salt Lake City area. This hail report here is sub-severe. And it's not showing up on here, but we did have a tornado report come in on the east coast of Florida, a brief touchdown of a tornado there, and the other reports here are sub-severe. So our current conditions around the country, pretty nice across most of the country. But if you see this cloud and shower activity, this is where our cold front is residing right here. And that's going to be pushing slowly southeastward throughout the day and southward through the center portion of the country. So a big long cold front here spanning across the country and some shower activity associated with that. This is not going to be where the severe weather risk is going to be. It's going to be pretty isolated, but it is going to be further south of where that complex of storms is occurring. And then we do see some good clearing back here for our other risk area. It's going to be a little bit further to the northwest of where that cold front is in the Rapid City area. So we do have a risk for storms, wind and hail storms in the Rapid City area today as well. So if you look at the temperatures, you can actually see where that cold front is. Cooler temperatures up here, warmer temperatures over here, and here's the delineation. So pretty clear-cut vision of where that cold front is. 80s in the south central part of the country, and generally pretty nice. It's not too hot yet anywhere today. Those temperatures are going to go up into the 90s in the southern portion of the country, but right now we're sitting at the 80s, and not too much moisture back behind that cold front. We do have a good moisture in front of it though. 70s and upper 60s dew points across most of the eastern portion of the country, and 77 is our high spot down in New Orleans. So we're going to hop right into our future radar. I'm going to go over the risk for Maine first because not really any cities there. I have a graphic for it, but I don't really highlight any cities. We do see some isolated thunderstorms developing this afternoon and evening and working their way eastward across the upper portion of Maine into Canada, and then just working its way off the coast in the overnight hours. So not too much to worry about there. There's not much population there. But if we can move back towards the Ohio Valley area, we do see some isolated activity popping up this afternoon here in southeastern Ohio, and then also in northwestern Ohio. That's going to be pushing eastward throughout the day. And here's those cold frontal storms here just north of the Pittsburgh area. So there's a risk for Pittsburgh here in Columbus, Ohio, and then working back towards the west. We do see more continued development going into tonight, but those storms are going to be less intense as we lose some of that daytime heating and instability. So we're going to see less intense thunderstorms going into the morning hours tomorrow. And we're going to keep working our way westward because, like I said, it's an elongated cold front. So very sporadic and isolated storms. Kansas City, you do have a risk because this is the third run in a row that this model has been showing a storm popping up near Kansas City. I know you guys get frustrated when we throw you in the risk, so don't get your hopes up too much. It's a pretty isolated risk, pretty marginal risk for you guys, but this has been showing up on the models here all morning, so you do have a risk for Kansas City. And we also see those storms popping up by Rapid City with some wind and hail chances up there as well this evening. And that's going to work its way eastward as a little complex of thunderstorms into the overnight hours and weakening into the overnight hours and into the early morning hours tomorrow. So here's our hail forecast graphic for today. Like I said, a pretty long risk. It's marginal across the board. Let's take a zoom in here and talk about some of the cities. Marginal risk for you: Rapid City, North Platte, Colby, Kansas, and going towards the east here, Kansas City's in on the risk, Springfield, Illinois, Indianapolis, also a low-end chance, and Cleveland, Ohio, a low-end chance for any hail up to $half size with any storm that can really get its act together along the cold front today. So, like I said, isolated storms for that area. And then we're going to go into the wind forecast. And like I mentioned, I do have Maine highlighted up here, but I don't have any cities up there to really talk about, so we're not going to zoom in on Maine. It's going to be pretty much the same risk area for wind. A little higher chance for Rapid City for wind, as we did see that bowing structure showing up on the model data. That's more conducive to those winds 60 to 70 miles per hour with anything that can really get going in that bowing structure. But low-end chance for North Platte and Goodland, and then Kansas City, a low-end chance for you, again, going into the eastern portions and central portions of the country. Springfield, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Columbus, all marginal chances across the board going into the northeast as well. Throw Pittsburgh here into the risk for today as well. So we're looking at the future radar for tomorrow's risk. So we have a risk for Montana, some storms popping up by the Glasgow area around 5 p.m., risk for Rapid City and Bismarck. Those are going to be the three main cities that are in the risk for tomorrow in this area. We do see some storm activity popping up on the model radar data, and that's going to work its way eastward into the evening and see some possible winds. That didn't show up on the last run, but it looks like a little bowing structure there with that complex. So we could possibly see some winds going into the southern portions of South Dakota with this stuff. And then it's going to weaken overnight into the early morning hours. So there's our northern plains risk. Then we also have a risk out in the Pacific Northwest here in Oregon, mainly Bend, Oregon. I think you're probably going to be on the way marginal side of this. Best risk for any population center would be Pendleton. And we do see some storms popping up there. And then a second round later on in the evening. This could have gusty winds up to 60 miles per hour with any of those storms. And then that stuff's going to weaken overnight and just kind of disappear. And we have a third area to watch, which is pretty broad risk across the East Coast. So we see storms popping up here in the afternoon hours in the northeast, working your way back towards the southwest. We do see this is going to be associated with that cold front that's moving today, as those storms push off the coast into the afternoon and early evening hours, weakening during the overnight hours. But we do see the possibility of some large hail and gusty winds up to 70 miles per hour with any of that activity. So graphically, here's what that's going to look like. We've got a couple areas for the hail up here in the northern plains, like I mentioned, and then that kind of smaller area on the east coast. That's really where your hail chances are going to be. But we'll look at the northern plains first. Only three cities I had to mention was Glasgow, Bismarck, and Rapid City. Pretty low-end chances for all of you guys to get hail up to $half size tomorrow. And now we're going to work our way to the northeast. New York City's in on the risk, Philadelphia, D.C., Baltimore, and Richmond, all at risk for $half size hail with any of those storms that can really get going tomorrow and stay isolated along that cold front. Tomorrow's wind risk, we've got a few areas to look at. So same thing, northern plains, east coast, and Pacific Northwest. I had mentioned Pendleton, really the only decent population center that's going to be included in that wind risk for winds up to 60 miles per hour with any of those storms that can really get going in Oregon. We're going to move over to the east here. Same three cities I've highlighted, really the only three cities to talk about: Glasgow, Bismarck, and Rapid City. All chance for 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts with anything that can get going in your area. And that's a little bit of a bigger risk as we work our way east for the wind. So wind chances for Louisville, Charleston, Roanoke, Morgantown. We're looking at Richmond, and then a moderate chance for New York City and Philadelphia. I think those are going to be the two cities that have the best chance at seeing those gusty winds up to 70 miles per hour tomorrow. So we'll see if we can get storms to go through those cities as well. Here's our future jet stream. This is what we're looking like right now. We do see this trough off to the west, and that's going to kind of work its way into the Pacific Northwest and kind of give us a chance for storms moving forward Sunday into Monday. So if you let this roll through, we're going to go to Sunday here, and we see starts to come in and push a little bit further east, and this is going to be the area to watch for Sunday, the Intermountain West and moving towards the east into the northern plains. So that's really what we're going to be looking at for Sunday. Monday gets a little bit more complicated. We need some shortwave trough to come through, but if there's going to be a risk on Monday, it's probably going to be in the northern plains into the upper Midwest, but northern plains is probably going to be our focus for that for your 4th of July on Monday, and then we're going to let this run through as this trough kind of retrogrades back and that ridge builds back in going into early next week in the mid portions of next week. So this ridge isn't really going anywhere moving forward. It's going to be hot, and risks are going to be in the northern part of the country. But this is what I have highlighted for Sunday. We do still have a risk on the East Coast for Sunday for hail and wind, but this is the bigger, more broad area that I was talking about for Sunday, Intermountain West going into the northern plains and possibly down into the central plains into Nebraska. So here's our tropical outlook. We only have one area to talk about, and it's honestly not very impressive right now. So within the next 2 days, we have a 10% chance of this disturbance forming into anything that's possibility of being named. And then in the next 5 days, also a 10% chance. So pretty low end chance for this disturbance here off in the Atlantic moving into the Caribbean Sea. So low end chance for there, but we do have Tropical Storm Bonnie. Finally, this storm is named. Currently 40 miles per hour, moving west at 20 miles per hour, heading right for Nicaragua. So gonna make landfall sometime today and then be off the coast by tomorrow. And then we're looking at this thing re-strengthening after it goes over land and goes south of Mexico. So they're looking at this becoming a Category 1 hurricane by Tuesday morning. We'll have to see how that plays out, but nothing really of importance to our landfall here. So they're not going to affect the U.S. at all. And that's pretty much what that is. So looking at a possible Category 1 hurricane in the early portions of next week. So we'll keep tracking that, and it's not really going to affect us, but we like to talk about it, so we'll keep tracking it for you guys. And like I said, we did name Bonnie, so the next one up will be Colin and then Danielle as we get moving forward further into hurricane season. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Make sure you stay in contact with us on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We are at HailTrace for all of those. And if you want to get directly in contact with us, you can give us a call at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hailtrace.com, or you can just go straight to hailtrace.com if you want to find out more about who we are and what we can do for your company. But as always, I am Frank Gaetano. Please have a great rest of your weekend and have a great 4th of July. We'll see you guys on Tuesday.